Would you like to accelerate your career and reach your full potential in just minutes a day? Welcome to the LEADx Show with New York Times best-selling author and Inc. 500 entrepreneur, Kevin Kruse.
Should you start your day with a 6 a.m. dance party? Hello, everyone. I'm Kevin Kruse. Welcome to the LEADx Show, where we help you to stand out and to get ahead. Now, don't forget to go to leadx.org/subscribe to subscribe and leave a rating for the show. It's the single best favor you can do for me. Now, for today's show, you'd better buckle up. Our guest today is certainly the most unique person I've interviewed so far. We were supposed to connect with Skype audio, but she activated the cameras and the Skype video filled my screen with her big smile, and she was wearing an even bigger hat. Immediately, it was as if she was interviewing me. She asked me about my t-shirt, about my books, about time management, about podcasts, and she just exuded this authenticity, curiosity, and mischief. We talked about her approach to leading millennials, and we even talk about the mean girls in your mind. But before we get into this interview, let's do the tip of the day. Flush your mistakes. Oh, the mistakes I've made in my days. Typos in proposals, saying stupid things to my direct reports, been on stage in front of hundreds of people and suddenly forgot what I was going to say next. Mistakes can cause us to feel embarrassed, angry, frustrated, scared. We lose confidence. But if we hold on to the mistake, we jeopardize the future. We jeopardize the next play. If a pitcher lets one wild pitch get into her head, she's more likely to make another one. If the goalie lets a ball get through his legs, that's the worst for a goalie. If he's totally upset, he's going to be more likely to miss the next shot on goal. An organization called Positive Coaching Alliance teaches athletes to flush the mistake away. They teach players to come up with a mistake ritual. Now, often it's literally to make a fist and raise your arm up and then make the motion, move your fist down like you're flushing a toilet. It sort of is a ritual. It sends a physical signal to reset, to move on from the mistake. Sometimes you'll see baseball players who swing and miss. It's a strike. Well, they draw a line in the sand with their bat, and then they kick the line away. They erase the line as if they're erasing the strike. They're erasing the mistake. As professionals, we can do the same thing. Pick a word, pick a motion, pick a deep breath, maybe all those things, anything to cleanse your mind. Everyone makes mistakes, but great talent doesn't let the mistake impact the future. Create a mistake ritual to stay in peak state. Our guest today is a serial social entrepreneur who loves bringing people together. She's the co-founder of THINX and co-founder and CEO of Daybreaker, an early morning dance movement in 20 cities around the world with a community of over 350,000 people who love to connect through music, dance, and yoga. Her upcoming book is called Belong. It's being published by Workman, comes out in the spring of 2018, and it really explains everything she's learned about community building with methods and exercises that she's designed so that anyone can organize and create community for their life and for their business. She was named one of the top 20 millennials on a mission by Forbes. Our guest is Radha Agrawal. Radha, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Kevin. It's good to be here.
So we have a tradition, of course, on the LEADx Show where we always challenge our guests to tell us a story, specifically a story about some time when you failed at something, maybe early in your career, maybe something recently. It's up to you. And we want to know what you learned from that experience too, because we want to learn from your failure.
Yeah. I mean, gosh, I have so many failures. This would be just one of many in the bucket. But I would say probably the one that resonates the most with me is actually taking money. And I specifically sort of raised money from investors, millions of dollars. I raised $5 million for one of my businesses early on. And I just took money from anybody and everybody. I had $20,000 left in the bank and I just really needed to make payroll. And I just took money that was sort of closest to me instead of the one that was best for me. And in doing so, I gave away control over my business. I signed on with impatient investors, where when you're building a social enterprise, like I was at the time, you need patient capital. In other words, investors who are willing to wait a few years before you sort of win the buy-in from all the different players that need to say yes to whatever it is that you're doing. So for me, it was sort of the government, the education system, parents, kids, everyone in the education space needed to sort of agree to this project I was working on, and it required several years. And so the difficulty, it wasn't their fault, but taking on money from traditional investors when I should have taken money from social sort of venture investors. And that was a massive lesson early on. I lost control of my business. I had to walk away, tail between my legs, hostile takeover. It was just a horrible experience, one I'll never forget. And when I try to share as often as possible, because young entrepreneurs don't often realize that all money isn't great money, that only some money is good money, and that just because someone's shining a beautiful, shiny object in front of you doesn't mean you have to go and take it. So that was the big lesson for me. Just because you have only $20,000 left in the bank, in some cases, better to walk away than go on for years with a misaligned investor.
I really want to say thanks, because that is a very real failure story and the lesson learned. And LEADx listeners, Radha said a couple things that, like that phrase, patient capital. It sounds funny. Not everybody's heard that yet. And one of the groups that I've probably given them more money than any other group is Acumen Fund out of New York.
Love that.
Yeah, and they're all about investing, like as investors, but investing patient capital in social enterprises around the world. And you make a good point. Like, entrepreneurs often desperate for money. It is hard to raise money. We'll jump at the first offer, and you got to be really careful about who's holding that money, who's holding that check out to you. And as you say, I believe it's hard, but sometimes it's better to walk away from something than to just extend the negative experience with some new partners that you're not getting along with for a couple of years.
I mean, it was 5 years of my life, 5 years. And honestly, I took away so many lessons, and ones I'll never make sort of the same mistake again. But yeah, had I known 2 years prior, I could have been doing something else. Another thing I want to share just really quickly to add on to that was taking on dollars from traditional investors who don't necessarily value female leadership either. So just to give you a quick story, I was sitting in a boardroom with 4 men, gray suits, gray hair, and they said to me, I'm the CEO and founder of my company. And they said to me, Radha, you stay here. Boys, let's go outside and talk business.
Oh.
And this happened to me, I would say 3 years ago, so not too long ago. And you wouldn't think that this would happen in this day and age, and that sexism is still a real thing in the space of entrepreneurship. But it is absolutely a misogynistic space, and one that I hope every woman listening really takes sort of caution around, and every man listening as well remembers to honor both sexes.
and we're doing this interview on September 12th, and every day there's a headline for the last few months, primarily coming out of Silicon Valley, about yet another CEO who has to resign or whatever because of outright sexual harassment or, some kind of bias going on. Now, you're a New York-based entrepreneur. And I mean, do you think it's worse in Silicon Valley and better in New York? Or basically, this is a problem in the industry that needs to be addressed?
It's a problem in the industry that 100% needs to be addressed, that women, every single female entrepreneur that I know has a 10x difficulty level to raise money than a man, where women have to continue proving themselves. Men only have to show promise. So that is the big difference. We have to show proof of success. That I've had several positive case studies, whereas men can walk into a room and show just the promise for a bright future.
Yeah, that's crazy. Even
for me as a seasoned, successful entrepreneur, I constantly have to prove myself as capable, whereas men just need to present an idea.
And I think it was just yesterday I saw from, it was like a BBC online news thing, an interview with a female tech entrepreneur who said she dyes her blonde hair brown because she was given that advice from a female VC, actually.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Like I thought that was like a joke or an Onion thing that I was reading. And I'm like, wait, this really happens?
Absolutely. I've had several girlfriends who have dyed their hair because of that.
So let's shift gears. Now, today I invited you on because I wanted to talk to you about your new company, Daybreaker. Yes. And, your website says it's an early morning dance movement with yoga, 2 hours before work, no alcohol. Now, to me, I don't know which was worse, the 2 hours before work or the no alcohol. I'm like, who's going to this party? How's this thing taking off? And yet it's spreading to, 18 plus cities around the world. And you see the pictures, everyone's having fun. Like, how'd you come up with this idea? And how do you explain the success of it so far?
Honestly, it's been quite the enigma to me too, in some ways. But then also having done sort of some and lots of different research now and having lots of conversations with community members, we are all starved for authentic connection. And I think, when we started from the very beginning, it was really born out of frustration over nightlife and how, nightlife had gotten overrun by drugs and alcohol and everyone on their cell phones and mean bouncers and people wearing stiletto heels and makeup and sort of really escaping the real versions of themselves, right? We really go out these days to be seen, not to connect. And there's a big distinction between those two. And so the idea for Daybreaker from the very beginning was to really invite authentic connection and community without alcohol in the morning, where your energy is highest, where you're most optimistic, where we all came from the same place, our bed, right? Think about it. When you go out at night, you might have been yelled at by your boss. You might have gotten in a fight with your boyfriend or girlfriend. There's so many variables where in the morning, your energy is clear. You're optimistic and excited and full. And so that was really the experiment. And then doing it a weekday morning before going to work was the sort of mischievous component, because we can live such mundane, such boring lives, one of which we go to the office, we come home, we Netflix and chill, right? And then on the weekends, we go out to the bars and get drunk and come home and rinse and repeat. So the idea again was, can we create something that gave you a bit of a wink in the middle of your week on a Wednesday morning? Most of our events happen on Wednesday mornings. And before going to the office, you have a little glitter on your face, as you go to the 9 a.m. bell. And that was that sort of art project that we started in December 10th of 2013. And it's since, exploded, because what we didn't realize was that people across the world, across the country, were really, really starved for this connection as well.
LEADx family, I hope you're picking up on, longtime listeners know I love great language, and Radha's got some great language. She talks about escaping the real version of ourselves and going out to be seen rather than to connect. I mean, some great terms and phrases here. And Radha, now I know you're a longtime veteran of Burning Man, and you're also a DJ, right?
Absolutely. Yes.
So how did this factor into Daybreaker?
Yes. I mean, music is the essence of life, right? It's the essence of community and connection. And DJing for me has been sort of just a really wonderful life hack in some ways, right? Of being able to orchestrate the experience of our community members and give them an experience that they hopefully won't forget. And honestly, also DJing has brought us all, my twin sister and I DJ together. We have a project called Me Too, Me Too on SoundCloud. You can find us, and Me Too, because we're twins and everything is Me Too when you're a twin. We launched a project also, again, as a response to how male dominated the DJ world is. And honestly, every DJ we were hiring for Daybreaker was male. And there was probably 1 out of every 20 events that we would throw, we would hire a female DJ. And for us, we were just like, what is happening here? So as much as we love, of course, our DJs, our residents, they're all wonderful and amazing. We thought, hey, let's learn ourselves and bring a bit more of a feminine approach to the music space. And we started DJing several years ago, and it's been such a blast. I mean, we just opened for Diplo at Burning Man last week. Yeah, that was quite a life highlight, I would say, that and getting engaged.
Quite a year for you then there.
I mean, it has been, life serves you so many wonderful curveballs. And, I never would have thought that I'd get engaged at Burning Man, that I'd be DJing, there as well on the very art car that inspired Daybreaker in the first place. And I share this on my Instagram, just about how Burning Man actually got me to stop judging myself. And I think that when you're on the dance floor, at anywhere that you go, you're judging yourself. How do I dance? Can I dance? How are everyone else dancing around me? Is this cool? Do I look cool? Are my hands okay? What am I doing with my legs? I think so often when we're dancing, we need to drink because there's a level of self-consciousness around self-expression. And the idea again of Daybreaker was, let's remove the alcohol, let's get back into our bodies, and let's really connect to ourselves and self-express authentically. And Burning Man, in many ways, and it was the catalyst for that for me. So the very art car that I DJ'd and opened for Diplo, was the first place I ever went to where it was late at night. All my friends were asleep. I literally rode my bicycle out to Deep Playa at Burning Man, which is the big festival grounds, and went and found this hidden art car in the middle of nowhere and just put my bike down and danced sober alone. And for the first time in my life, got into my body, didn't think about how I looked, didn't judge myself, and just like connected to myself in the most profound ways. And I think we forget the healing powers of dance and the healing powers of movement and self-expression. And we are living these straitjackets now. We live in this world of, I have to look perfect, I have to be perfect. And that's the whole idea of what we're trying to sort of unravel at Daybreaker is let's get back to dancing. We all used to dance as kids, and all of a sudden we stopped saying that we could dance. And all of a sudden we stopped dancing. And look at us now. We're more unhappy, more isolated, more anxious than ever before. So I feel a deep sense of urgency around bringing back play and bringing back dance and self-expression.
You're extending this mission with some other projects like Table Makers, Daybreaker Campus. So how are you now extending into these other areas?
Yeah, so many of our community members have shared stories of their friends and their brothers and their sisters and families, like dealing with such crazy anxiety and depression on college campuses. Here's a crazy stat for you. 42% of college students are experiencing either depression or anxiety. And that number has skyrocketed since I was in college. And the question is why? What's happening? Well, of course, the social media. It's all the pressures of your cell phone and trying to be the best version of yourself at all times. And it's really daunting. It's really scary. And you put on a different face on social media. I mean, I can't tell you how many of our members, I look at their social feeds and they're completely different than who they are in real life. And I find that to be just so interesting and upsetting. And so our campus program was sort of a way to connect college students back to their authentic selves and to stop sort of trying to be a version of themselves that they're not, and get back to, again, authentic connection and really to give them a space to say, hey, there's a different path on campus than drunk frat parties. There's a different place to connect and dance and self-express without judgment than getting wasted doing keg stands. So I think for me, when I was in college, there was no other way. I didn't have it. I only drank, and I found myself blacked out half the weekends, in my college life, and waking up next to strange people and doing all kinds of ridiculous things and feeling unsafe. And just there were so many moments in my college career that come back to me as we build out this program. And we're already in 4 campuses now. We just launched at Duke and BU and USC and UPenn, and we're launching many other schools in the weeks to come. And it's just been incredible, the responses that we've gotten from college students who have just been so grateful for another way to connect with one another. And we are so at the very beginning of this journey. And we're now launching another program called Live It Up. And Live It Up is our 12-month membership program for college students. It's literally, think about how much you spend on college campus to go to college tuition. It's like $50,000 a year. We said, let's create something that is affordable that any kid across any socioeconomic background can afford. So we said, okay, great. Let's make it less than $200. And for 12 months, we've curated 12 unbelievable experts around subject areas that college students struggle with. So for example, we have a 21-day challenge on unlocking your creativity and passion. We have Mark Fisher, who's doing productivity and fitness and nutrition. We have Sally Crotchfeld, who's doing 21-day challenge on financial abundance. So all the different issue areas that college students struggle with: love, sex, and relationships, self-love, community building, wellness and nutrition, gratitude, time management, all these areas that students struggle with. We have now created a 12-month program for them to be able to connect with other students, to really develop the life skills through these challenges throughout the year. So
it's great stuff. My oldest daughter is a sophomore at Hofstra, not far from your offices. So I'll certainly let her know about Live It Up, and I'll tell her to find a connection to Brooklyn to get Daybreaker Campus going on at Hofstra sometime.
That's amazing. Yeah, we just launched our website, goliveit.com. And we're super, super excited about just the community. Again, instead of being relegated to imagine your daughter not just having her Hofstra friends, but all of a sudden she has friends across the country, across the world, with whom she's going through these 21-day challenges with. And we're creating a whole club and membership program for these college students so they can connect with one another across the world as well. So again, I think so often we're super myopic with who we spend our time with on college campuses. And it's just a wonderful way to have friends across the world right away. So yeah.
I love it. Now, let me ask, before we wrap up, I have to ask, I'm sure, you're a 30 something, and I'm sure have a lot of millennials in your company. And, LEADx is offering a lot of leadership advice, management advice. And when I go out and talk, there's always a lot of questions about how do we manage these crazy millennials who got the trophies and don't want to work and they're all lazy and everything. And I'm sure you don't agree with these crazy stereotypes, but what advice would you have? Like, do you lead today's 20-something to early 30-somethings differently than you would have maybe led other generations?
I think that we have a very special group here at Daybreaker. I think most of our team were first members of the Daybreaker community before they actually came to our HQ to become part of the team. So they've already experienced the authentic connection. They've already experienced the self-expression, and those sort of meaningful moments. They've come here not just to clock in and clock out, but every single person here is here to be part of the mission of what we're trying to spread and create. And so I feel very fortunate in that our millennials here are the most hardworking, the best, most committed team members I could have ever asked for. And I'll share with you two things. One is that I've led two types of teams. One, through a space of real kind of fear, and that didn't work. And I think that you can lead with fear and, bark orders and be sort of a scary leader, or you can be one that cries with your team and that shares when you're PMSing and that you're expressing yourself in meaningful ways. And I think the more we treat millennials and humans in general as just peers and partners and friends and also teachers, as teachers on both sides, I think that managers will get a lot more out of them. I think autonomy is something that millennials value. And for me, in some ways, I think I can be too much of a laissez-faire leader where I'm like, hey, you're awesome at this, like get after it, you got this. And I don't want to be bothered after that, kind of thing. But I realize that part of my role as a late 30-somethings is that I need to be more of a teacher and more patient as well when these types of questions come up. And yeah, I think it's really straddling the line between being a leader that allows your team to really spread their wings and find their own voice, and then one that guides them and gives them a direction that they can then fold into their own toolbox, right? So yeah, I don't know. It's like I'm writing about a chapter of this in my book Belong right now, just about how New York Times in an article talks about how all old people are the same. Like there's like a generalization of how elderly people like to live lives that are slow moving, and they like to have meaningful conversations. They like to go on slow walks. It's just like such generalized ideas. And I read the comment sections and it was just like every single person above the age is going to be different than the other person. One person might be overweight. One person might be fit as a fiddle. You can't generalize. And so I think that there is a generalization. I think the one thing I did notice is, millennials value their freedom and value their autonomy. And the more we can give that to them as managers and help guide them, the more we'll get out.
Final question for you. I always challenge our listeners to get a little bit better every single day, like just to try something different to excel in your career, in your life, etc. So give us a challenge. What's something we could go out and do today? You want us to just go dance by ourselves or something else?
Absolutely. I think step one is get in front of the mirror, put on a song and dance your heart out. Look at yourself, love yourself, get into your body and just let go of judgments, let go of any sort of doubt and perfectionism. I talk about this again in my book. I call it the mean girls of your mind, judgment, perfectionism, and comparison, right? And if we can just recognize that they exist in our minds every day and we can move our awareness to the soul sisters, gratitude, curiosity, and inspiration, right? If we can move our awareness there, then really we can begin this journey of community and exploration in such a more meaningful and optimistic way. So awareness is a really big component that I share as a challenge to all the listeners out there. Be aware of your mean girl moments and really try to move your awareness towards sitting with the soul sisters.
You just gave us a great tease for your book, but when does it come out? You still got some time before we got to be waiting for a while, right?
Yeah. Well, so Belong, the title of the book, comes out in May of next year. And really the goal, again, is to help anyone who is looking for a new community, moves to a new city, is sick of their old friends, to find their authentic tribe, create community for themselves or their organization or business, and live a more connected life.
So until May, where can our listeners find out more about you and about Daybreaker?
So they can find us at daybreaker.com. They can sign up for their city. So we're in 20 cities around the world. We're all over the world. So if you go to daybreaker.com, put your name in, pick your city. We will certainly likely be near you. And then you can find me on Instagram at love.radha, LOVE.RADHA.
Radha, thanks for coming on the LEADx show.
Thank you so much for having me, Kevin. This is wonderful.
Friends, before we go, remember, at LEADx, we're on a mission to give free leadership training and professional development to everyone, anywhere, at any time. Visit leadx.org to check out our upcoming webinars and online training events, and subscribe to our newsletter to be notified of new offerings. And please take 1 minute to go to leadx.org/subscribe to subscribe and leave a rating on iTunes, because we're at 227 reviews as of this moment, and I need to get to 300. Just in the last week, we've had awesome 5-star ratings from Garth, Trish Way, Di in AZ, Try Guru, Indigo Cole, Elsie Flores, and so many others. Please join them. leadx.org/subscribe. Until next time, remember, your family, your team at work, your community, we all need you to lead with intent. How will you lead today?